Hey guys, Crafty here from Living in Beta, and today we have a video for you focusing around how to turn your character into a one-person army. Now, we'd all be lying if we didn't say that when the first Cyberpunk 2077 trailer dropped all those years ago, we all wanted to know what the hell was going on with that woman. Little did we know that she was repping some top cyberware enhancements, making her badassery possible for us in-game. Fast forward a few years, and now we're able to explore exactly how we become that cool. Of course, we have encounters in games where cyberpsychos get too high on their own supply and start massacring everything around them. But I'm talking about how to create the most optimal human being, making use of all the enhancements Night City has to offer and becoming unstoppable in every scenario. In this video, we're going to give you our opinions on the top cyberware to have in each possible body section, why we think they're useful, alongside how to obtain them and what requirements they may need. Now, as always, if there's specific cyberware you're looking for, the timestamps will be in the description and the handy chapters will be on the video timeline. Let us know in the comments your go-to cyberware, and if there's any we've missed, maybe we should check out. We're open to some chats in the comments, so let's have that conversation. But for now, enough chatting nonsense from me. Let's get into the video. Okay, so before we get into the first cyberware items, I just want to set the parameters of the video. We're going to be doing it on a high level character, level 50 with 50 street cred, but we will display the requirements needed for each cyberware piece. We're only going to be focusing on the legendary cyberware in that slot, or the best version in the slot as well, of course. Most of them will be legendary, a couple will not. And it's important to know as well that at the end of the video we'll be looking at the kind of perfect build you can have to cover the majority of the cyberware in this video. Now, first we're going to start with the Frontal Cortex, of course, which brings us to the Ripper Dock in Watson, in Northside, the closest fast travel point being Pershing Street, and then obviously the Ripper Dock that is very close. This geezer is called Cassius, same name as a couple. And the one here we're looking at, more importantly in the Frontal Cortex, is the cyberware named Heal on a Kill. Now this one, as you can see here, instantly restores 10% of your health after defeating an enemy. I've been using this one for a long time, the epic version. This one right here is one of the best cyberwares you can use. Now, to showcase Heal on a Kill, I just thought I'd get us in a couple of scraps out here just to show you how it works. I know it's fairly self-explanatory, but as you take damage and lose health, you'll also notice that every time you kill something, you're pretty much going to heal yourself up. As you can see there, I went from 701 to 731 in the top left-hand corner. This is one of the best when it comes to melee builds, being able to, make that dart and use the enemies around you to heal you really gives you an edge on the battlefield instead of having to stop and pop yourselves a healing max dock or something along those lines. I think in general though it's always going to be good, and the 10% health is a lot, especially when you have those stasis effects on you like you see in the top left hand corner. Sticking with the Frontal Cortex, we're going to be going to the next Ripper Dock, which is housed right near the West Wind Apartments, a location we know very, very well of our Farm Fest videos. Obviously, the Ripper Dock is very close. You'll visit this one, and this one's going to have a lot of Frontal Cortex cyberware, but you're going to need a high intelligence to be able to use this. So, the ones we're looking at here, you've got the Visual Cortex support, which you can see increases the crit damage by 45%. That's massive for any build out there and highly recommended, needing a 16 intelligence for that one. And then if you're in an intelligence build, you'll know that Cyberdeck RAM and those cooldowns are very, very important. So you've got the Camillo RAM Manager here. When your Cyberdeck's RAM reaches 2, instantly free 30% of it, cooldown 4 minutes. Very handy for that kind of build. Again, needing a 16 intelligence. And then also the X disc fitting into that build very, very strongly. An 18 intelligence needed for that one, but increasing your Cyberdeck's max RAM units by 5. You can see that Having a high intelligence, although it's not maybe natural to most builds, you can really get some very strong frontal cortex cyberware in that area. And the last recommendation for the frontal cortex is going to bring us over to the Japantown area, the left of Westbrook here, closest fast travel point being the Cherry Blossom Market, and it will be the Ripperdoc in this area here as opposed to Fingers over there. Now, of course, in here we've got the kind of accompanying cyberware that could go really well with the ones we just looked at, which increasing your crit chance. This one here has the limbic system enhancement, increasing that crit chance by 25% with a 15 intelligence, adding that to the crit damage increase in the last one in Pacifica with the visual cortex support. Those two, in my opinion, are massive anyway. Add those to heal on a kill, and that really is a great, setup in your frontal cortex. I know, again, I said it a minute ago, having the high intelligence is not maybe the flavor of the month or the build that everyone likes to go for, but you really can get some strong frontal cortex cyberware, in that area. So yeah, pick up those three in my recommendations, but the ones that help with your RAM or increased RAM are also very, very good. But everyone loves more crit and more damage, right? Let's move on to the Ocular System. So the Ocular System brings us back to our good friend Vic, who we all meet early on in the storyline. For this one, if you need to know, obviously the closest fast travel point is Bradbury and Burren, very close to V's apartment, as you all know. Now Vic, when you first meet him, will ask you to pay him back some money. It's 25k eddies, which you'll get done very quickly, and then he allows you to buy cyberware. He may already allow you to buy cyberware, but I think this cyberware unlocks after doing that part or that mission. You'll see here, it's the Kiroshi Optics Mark III. Vic himself does do the Mark II and Mark I, but of course, having the epic version is better. Now, there is no legendary version in this slot, so the Kiroshi Optics Mark III is the best way to go. In terms of what it costs to purchase, you're looking at 5k. Obviously, it's sellable for 500. But that's not what we're going to do. This is the best in game so far. I'm hoping that they give you more options when DLC drops, but we'll see. But this gives you the ability to enhance your vision, use that left bumper or the equivalent on your console or platform, and use the abilities that come with that. But yeah, our good friend Vic's there to help us out. Let's move on to the Circulatory System. Now, in my opinion, the Circulatory System is kind of where things start getting even more interesting when it comes to cyberware. This is going to bring us down to, again, one of my favorite spots in videos, as we all know, the left-hand side of Hayward, to the fast travel point in the pumping station, and the Ripperdoc is a stone's throw over the road. Let's not get hit by a car. So yeah, this is where we kind of start, making use of the cyberware in a defensive fashion, a little bit unique as well. So this geezer here, once he stops chatting nonsense, has the option to buy a couple that we're going to look at, additional to others that we'll look at in a second. Now, a special mention first to Sin Lungs, increasing your stam regen by 25%. That's not a bad one to have for 7k eddies. As you know, stamina is used for not only running, climbing, grappling, but also swinging a melee weapon again, and I'm a very melee heavy build and appreciate what you can do with a melee weapon in this game. But in my opinion, I've never had that much struggle when it comes to stamina. Wink wink. And there's also the perk that allows you to not use any stamina while running, etc. in the perk tree of body. The main one we're looking at though from this geezer here is Second Heart. Insta restoring 100% of max health when your health falls to 0, cooldown being 2 minutes. Yes, it's pricey at 42k, but it is a cheat death, and I think anyone out there would be happy with a cheat death. Now this pairs nicely with another Circulatory System cyberware that we can get from the Badlands. We're going to show you that one now. So when I say Badlands, I really mean we're going to visit our good friend Panem at the Nomad camp that she has. Beware, there's a few looking around here, looking for that Ripperdoc, but there's not really any out here. It's always at the Nomad camp where Panem is. The location can vary, but eventually it will be set at this same place. Now, I didn't mention before, as we make our way over to the Ripperdoc, a lot of these all of these Circular System Cyberwares are going to require you to have a high body. The second heart one here would require you to have a 16 body, and the Sin Lungs that I spoke about before, the ones that increase your stam regen, that requires 18 body. And that's the same for these other ones we're buying here. So the one that I wanted to pair this second heart with is the Bio Monitor. As you can see here, it instantly restores 100% health when health drops to 15%, cooldown of 120 seconds. Now I know what you're thinking, Crafty, why have they called this a cooldown of 120 seconds and this one 2 minutes? Don't worry about it, mate, it's still in beta. But the other question you're probably asking is, don't they cancel each other out? Well, no, they actually don't, because if you read here, it's when your health drops to 15%, which essentially makes the game trigger the biomonitor before the second heart ability. So you're going to have 2 cheat deaths no matter what. And again, you may be thinking, what if it takes you below 15%? It's still going to pop off the biomonitor first. Now, to accompany these, in my opinion, the best one is the bioconductor, reducing all cyberware cooldowns by 30%. Now, as I said, these have a 2-minute cooldown. Reducing it by 30% is going to be great, as you know, and it goes for all the cyberware we're using in this video and you can use throughout the game. So why not get this for the 3rd slot? Because the only other ones we have a choice of course, is that increasing that stam regen, as we said before. Blood pump here, which is an on-use heal, which again I wouldn't fully recommend. With biomonitor and second heart, that's kind of the best way to go. And there's another one that we're going to check out now that could be beneficial, but overall, in our opinion, bioconductor really accompanies the whole build in general, reducing those cyberware cooldowns. Okay, so the last recommendation for the circulatory system brings us to another Ripperdoc based in the Watson area of north side in the Watson area. Just a little bit to the south, we have the fast travel point Kabuki Market, and there's a Ripperdoc very, very close, stuck down a alleyway. You'll know you're at the right place because you'll see a man sitting in a chair with a shower cap on, acting like he's all business. And in here, he has 2 that we look at, but 1 we recommend. So the one that we're recommending, if you want to, depending on your build, is the Adrenaline Booster, instantly restoring 50% stamina when you defeat an enemy. Now, if you remember with Heal on a Kill, that's restoring 10% health. You can have it also restoring 50% stamina when you kill something as well. As you can imagine, again, I don't want to keep harping on about it, but those melee builds, even the ranged builds, but those melee builds that are making use of that stam and taking a lot of damage because they're running around, really can get a benefit from this. He also has a feedback circuit, instantly restoring 10% health after you discharge a fully charged weapon with a hit to an enemy. Not really beneficial, doesn't really trump the other ones. But yes, let's move on to the immune system and run our way through our fingers. Now, I'm not going to spoil this one too much, but as some of you may know, you will come across fingers in the storyline. Mostly when you're trying to help out Evelyn Parker and find out what's going on with her. I'm not going to showcase the quest, I don't want to give away many spoilers, but it's just important to note a key point in this. Now, the closest fast travel point will be Mega Building H8. You can of course land at Cherry Blossom Market. As always, you'll then make your way through the market and work your way around to where Fingers is based. Now, you'll start seeing this area when you're on the quest. It will bring you around the back here, and you'll come up to where Fingers is located in this building. Classic Fingers MD out here. Now, in that quest, there's a key moment where you're having a conversation with the guy and he really makes you want to punch him in the face, and the game allows you to have that option. Now, it's essential that you do not punch Fingers in the face and you just live with his nonsense, so you're available to use him as a Ripperdoc going forward. He is very important. He sells a lot of handy cyberware. You'll see him a couple of times in this list, so I can't make it any more clear. Please don't punch Fingers as much as he makes you want him to. I've punched fingers on my first playthrough, and I really didn't get any benefit for doing it other than as quite, you know, a slight satisfaction for doing so. Now, the reason why we're here and have to look at this legend of a man with his purple bum bag is to talk about the immune system. Now, he has two very simple cyberwares, but they have quite a big effect. Now, it's the first time, and I think the only time we're going to see the cool attribute used here, with a 15 cool for the Carter reset and the pain editor needing a 16 cool. Now you can see here, pain editor reduces all incoming damage by 10%. A very simple cyberware that really does get a massive benefit, and it doesn't matter on the build. Again, I'll mention melee, you're running around, you're taking that damage, but an overall flat incoming damage reduce, that's awesome. For 28k, sign me up. And next to that, with a Kata resist coming in with a 35% increase to all resistances. Now you'll see that, you know, having a high armor on your character is great, but that only affects the, you know, the bullets or the standard damage of a weapon or standard damage overall that you're taking. When it becomes poison or fire or ice or whatever the, you know, extra one is on top, that modifier can start hurting you even if you have a high level of armor. So having this, a flat 35% increase on resistances, is great. But you are going to need a high cool attribute, which I don't think maybe, you know, is that big for most people. I recommend it, but these two are slightly niche and probably the only two that I would say we might lose out on if we want to cover all bases. But yeah, don't punch fingers in the face as much as he looks like he needs one, and you'll make sure you'll give you a very, very strong immune system. Okay, so the next area we're going to cover is the nervous system, of course, bringing us one of the fan favorite cyberwares out there, which we'll look at in a second. So you're going to want to come to the Santo Domingo area on the left-hand side, to the fast travel point, Metro, Wollaston Street. Of course, you can use Hargrave Street if you want to. It's just important that you can access the Ripper Dock on the river here. Nicely placed with a view and a nice cafe outside. You'll go into the Ripper Dock, of course. The geyser here and the nervous system is what we're looking at. Now there's two here that are very, very important. Firstly, the Korenzikov. You'll see I've already got it at rare level, only needing 12 reflexes to use. It allows you to aim and shoot while dodging, slowing time by 70% for 2 seconds. You may have seen it on YouTube in many parkour videos out there in Cyberpunk 2077, where they're doing the kind of aim, shoot, dodge, and then leap to get across big gaps. This is the cyberware they're using for that. Now the legendary version, of course, gives you a 90% slow time with a slightly better cooldown, or duration, sorry. Very, very handy to have, but you're going to need 18 reflexes to get this. I still get a lot of benefit out of the rare version. And also, of course, it's not in the purchase screen right now, apart from the epic level here of increasing your evasion by 12% of the Neofiber. I've already purchased a legendary version, giving that 15% evasion. Again, very, very popular and handy for those melee builds, but in general, having a high evasion is never going to be a bad thing, no matter the build you have. So those two in the nervous system are kind of the best, and they come from the same Ripper Dock. So let's get on to the next one. Ripper Dock. Now the next set of cyberware brings us to the Ripper Dock in the kind of almost in bang in the middle of Watson, with the closest fast travel point being Kennedy North, but you can go southwest from Kabuki Market as well, bringing you to the Ripper Dock that's placed just inside this market here. Now this guy only deals in this type of cyberware, and it's in the Integumentary System. Very interesting name. Now I've already purchased one from him before, this being one of my go-tos and one of my big recommendations, the subdermal armor, increasing that armor by 200. Now there isn't any attribute level needed for this. Anyone can use it. It's just a flat out increase to armor. As you can see here as well, he does offer, other things to add additional to this system. So you've got the immunity to burn, immunity to bleeding, immunity to shock. And one of the great ones here, needing a 14 cool, when affected by a burn, instead of receiving that damage, you deal 10% more damage. So these are very handy to have. You can see I've got through the whole game without having any additional, just because the increased armor is what I was looking for. But essentially heat converter as well would be very good, and then you can find yourself an immunity that suits you. I personally get a lot of my immunities from armor mods, but that's not what this video is about. Dr. Chrome is here, and he's given us the Integumentary System to help combat things. So yeah, this is the geezer to see. These are the best ones for that. Let's move on to the next one. Now, when I said, oh, Dr. Chrome only specializes in only one thing, well, I lied. He's actually the key guy for at least my recommendations on operating system. Now, with operating system, there's a bigger video we're going to create for this, but I'll give you a quick whistle stop tour on kind of the three options you've got. You've got a Cyberdeck operating system, which really focuses around increasing that base RAM and doubling down on quick hacks in general, in combat, and kind of taking control of the battlefield yourself. You have the Sandivistan, for want of a better way of saying it, operating system, which really focuses around increasing that crit chance and slowing time. Of course, if this was a legendary version, you would get a lot more stats and probably a slightly better active ability. And then you have my favorite, the Berserk operating system, which is a non-use ability that really gives you a boost in strength, resilience, reduces that weapon recoil, increases that melee damage, armor and resistances by 20%. You can see here it really makes you into more of a berserking kind of tank character, which is my recommendation. Now, one of the most fun things about it as well, which is why I really enjoy it, is obviously jumping from a high height initiates a superhero landing, causing you to fall at a high speed and land with enough force to create a shockwave. This is an awesome ability. If you're in Cyberpunk 2077 and you're in a setting like this, which is fantasy but technological, then why not use that ability? It's important to note though, although we recommend this, you're going to need an 18 body once again to get the benefit out of the Berserk. The other option, if you really like the intelligence build and you're doubling down on the Cyberdecks, is still sold by Mr. Dr. Chrome, the Raven Micro Cyber Mark IV. This one doesn't have an attribute requirement, but it does need a street cred level of 40. And maybe a level of 40 as well, so just bear that in mind. But this is just a bigger upgrade on the Cyberdeck level, giving you slightly better stats and those passive abilities as well. So yeah, it depends on the kind of build you've got rocking, but overall Berserk is always going to be handy because it is badass. Now let's move on to the skeleton. For the skeleton, we're going to find ourselves waking our way over to Westbrook in the southern area to the closest fast travel point, Luxury Apartments, which brings you slap bang outside the Ripperdoc in question. Now going inside, of course, we're looking at the skeleton, as I said, and there's only two real main ones here to be looking at. You've got yourselves the bionic lungs, increasing that base stamina by 60%, very simple and effective, and of course the synapse signal optimizer, increasing your health by 60%. For these, you're going to need 20 body to use the synaptic signal optimizer and an 18 body to be able to use the bionic lungs. These are very simple, but I kind of feel like it fits the skeleton, making sure your stamina is better and your health is better. It really is beneficial. Kind of set and forget, but adds that extra layer to your character that really, increases those base stats well. So that's the skeleton. Let's move on to Hans. Hans brings us back to our boy Vic, and we're going to double down on a certain specific way of using weapons. So smart weapons is what we're going to be looking at. You'll see here there'll be the ability called Smart Link, allowing you to use a smart targeting module on smart weapons, increasing the chance for smart bullets to hit targets and the crit damage. Directly links to your optimal implant. Now you would have seen me use this before in some of my farming videos. It allows your smart weapons to have access to that bullet ability where it tracks your enemies and goes near them. This is kind of the only good one in Hands. You'll see here I'm still using this common one, Tattoo Together Forever. It's just a Johnny tattoo that you get throughout the storyline. I don't use the smart link on this build just because I am, of course, in a melee build. You also have the options of ballistic cop processor, which is all around those ricocheting bullets with power weapons. Again, beneficial if you're using that type of weapon. Up to you. I prefer the smart link one for my other build that I have going on. But yeah, up to you. Only 2 options from your boy Vic. Now let's move on to the fun that is arms. Now with arms, it brings us straight back to our favourite Ripper dock in the left-hand side of Hayward at the pumping station. This Ripper dock here is the only place you can buy the legendary versions of all the ARM cyberware. But I'm pretty sure if you just wanted the rare versions, or maybe even the epic versions, you can get them at any Ripper dock, no matter where you are. Now with the arms, you have 4 different types, and they all kind of change your playstyle depending on what you want to do. There is a video we've covered before, which is Mantis Blades versus Monowire. You can find that in the description, and that really covers our 2 favorite ones that you can get. But there is 4, so let's run through them. So first, you've got your projectile launch system. As it says here, projectile launch system allows you to fire out various projectiles, dealing various types of damage, as well as causing explosions and applying stasis effects. But most importantly, it wrecks mayhem and destruction. But as you know, this is very, very handy. Lots of videos out there with regards to using this, and the bullet type that only nullifies enemies. So when you're on very hard, you can really get the benefit out of this. I've used it before on my first playthrough, but I really like the Mantis Blades, so I kind of skip over this one. And then the next one, as I said, is the Mantis Blades. This giving you the ability to have blades out your arms, turning into that woman on the very first Cyberpunk trailer, and really just slicing and dicing everything around you, taking the benefit from the blades perk tree, you know, and the reflex attributes. This is just an all-in-all fun thing to use, leaping through the air and just having a grand old time. And then, of course, you have the Monowire, the kind of, I don't know, underdog of the ARMS cyberware tree, if you ask me. This one is really, really cool, and a build around this would be excellent to play. I'm working on it myself. This makes use of the blunt weapon perks, which is very interesting, although the wire itself is not very blunt. But yeah, you do get that benefit, so it matches the Mantis Blades, as I said in the video that we've covered before. And this really having that wire out there and whipping people, and you know, being a modern, futuristic Indiana Jones, nothing wrong with that at all. And then lastly, you have, of course, the Gorilla Arms, probably the most simple here, just giving you basically better fists to knock people out, and also giving you kind of a strong attack, and also strength in general to force open locked doors and rip turrets from their bases. An awesome ability, very beneficial for those side quests out there where you're fighting, in boxing, hand-to-hand combat. I don't want to say boxing, it's not really boxing. This can give you a leg up. I've purchased these before just for that benefit, so they're very beneficial, but I wouldn't say they're as flashy as the others, of course, which if you don't want to be flashy in Cyberpunk, then why are you playing it? But yeah, that's ARMS. Really changes your build up depending what you want to do. I fully recommend it, and you don't always need the legendary version really. You can really benefit from the epic or rare versions as well. Let's move on to the last section, the legs. Now with the legs, we find ourselves back at our beautiful friend Fingers, but it's important to note here that you can really, for a couple of these, you can get them anywhere. So with legs, the first 2 options you'll see out the box, for want of a better phrase, and when you'll find these at Vic, is the fortified ankles and the reinforced tendons. Now, most YouTubers, and myself included, would recommend the reinforced tendons. That double jump really does help with a lot more. Being able to get that second jump to go across longer distances and climb higher. But there's nothing wrong with the fortified ankles, holding down that charge power jump and then releasing it is really, really handy as well. But we're at fingers for a reason, and the reason is he allows you to do a couple of things. First, better improved fortified ankles, reducing your fall damage by 15%, but also being able to hover while in midair and control the direction you hover. Now this is really, really cool for the kind of, the weapon builds, the sniper builds, the assault rifle builds, because you can get the upper hand on enemies and start battles at a much higher height. But also, kind of displayed there in the bio itself, helps you with falling damage. If you accidentally fall off a high area or, accidents happen, being able to hover in midair and reduce that falling damage as well is really, really handy. Now, alongside that, if you're a person that's all about the sneak and you're doubling down on the cool attribute and you really want to make the most of it, allowing you to move and run more quietly with Link's Paws here is always beneficial. It's 85k, yes, but it is handy. I would recommend either fortified ankles or the reinforced tendons, but that is up to you. There is some benefits to fortified ankles for sure. Because I'm a melee build though, the reinforced tendons just make slightly more sense. But yes, that's all the cyberware for now. Let's go into the more optimal build to cover all bases. Now, before we end the video, we thought it'd be good to discuss if it's possible to have the quote-unquote perfect build. When we say perfect, we mean the one that kind of covers the most cyberware on this list, making sure you have the right amount of attribute points to make sure you can equip everything that you've seen in this video. Now on screen you can see the attribute points that are needed to cover all bases. We've needed an 18 reflexes, an 18 intelligence, a 20 body and a 16 cool. You'll notice that we didn't really need any tech requirements here. Tech sadly has no effect on cyberware, which is very interesting. Maybe that's something that could come down the line in a DLC. Now, of course, you may have noticed that it sadly is not possible to mathematically cover all the points needed, falling short by only 3 points overall, which is, I can only imagine why they did that, who knows. Remember, you start off with 3 points in all attributes, of course, when you start your character, and then 7 to distribute when you're on that screen. And then you have a further 50 points from the 50 levels you get, which gives you a total of 57 to distribute. And for us to get every attribute up to the required level, we would need 60, as I said, 3 missing. So frustrating, which means we need to make some changes. But fear not, we feel we still have the most optimal build possible here. It's also important to put a disclaimer as well. This build is focusing on just cyberware, right? Not perks and stuff like that. It's fully our opinion. So don't go getting upset in the comments around, this thing's much better. Of course, that's fine. But we're talking about just covering as much cyberware as possible. If everyone does get upset though, I'll bring out some living in beta tissues or something, double down on that money. Anyway, so the build we recommend is as follows. You want a body of 20, an intellect of 18 or an intelligence, reflexes at an 18, and then we've decided that, the 2 or 3 that we can drop off when it comes to cyberware is the 2 ones that require you to have a cool attribute. So we put tech at 8 and cool at 8. Having this set wouldn't really restrict you. It only doesn't let you have those 2 kind of immune system cyberwares, which are only reduced damage and increased resistance, which you can get anyway from clothing mods or your base level of body and things like this can help you with that anyway. So we thought this was the most optimal. But the fact that we've showcased a hell of a lot of cyberware out here and you're only missing out on 2, I think that's almost the perfect build. Of course, you're going to need a lot of eddies to do this, so make sure you check out our eddy videos as well to get that done. So yeah, that's the video overall. I want to thank you for sticking with us through this one. Again, this is just our opinion on what we think is the best cyberware out there. Of course, there's some niches and specific builds that will make use of other things, which we fully enjoy. Let us know in the comments your setup of cyberware. Is there one out there that we've missed, or is there builds out there that we really should try and check out? We're more than happy to do so. We love the interaction from the community, so thank you for that. And any info you can give us is always appreciated. But yeah, as always, thank you for watching the video. Give it a like if you liked it. Share with your friends if you liked it as well. Subscribe for more content like this. And remember, don't be a gonk.